Finally, it's happening. Dongle Madness doing Bluetooth DAC amp. And I have with me here this FiiO BTR15 and the highly popular Qudelix 5K. Alright, so let's just go on and have a look at how much these two cost. Okay, as you can see here, these two I got them from Red Ape Audio Malaysia because I am based in Malaysia. And you would see there that BTR15 is priced at Malaysian ringgit 529 in Shopee store, which is essentially 115 US dollar internationally. And this Qudelix 5K is priced just slightly lower at 519 Malaysian ringgit, which is equivalent to 110 US dollar. Okay, both of these are very popular. So now let's just have a look at the configuration itself. How does it look like? You see, I will not bore you with some of the details because you can easily read them from respective website from FiiO or even Qudelix. But essentially, we are looking at this BTR15 here running a dual ESS Sabre 9219MQ, and this 5K which I have in my hand is in fact an older first generation model which runs on ES91218P dual configuration as well. I know that for a fact the recent releases of this Qudelix 5K, which has already been in the market for quite a while, for many years already, is now running on ES91219 DAC ESS Sabre as well. Okay, I'm just going to quickly show some of the function on the hardware. And just switching it on like this turns on the FiiO. Okay, you can see it's already connecting. By default, you can see the function button here, right, which says in the middle here Bluetooth mode. Okay, and you also have PC mode and you also have this phone mode. And I will just briefly explain what happened between these three modes. Okay, first, if you connect to PC, what will happen is that it will allow you to operate this BTR15 like a dongle, normal dongle. Okay, and it will also allow the host, which is either this phone, Android phone, or even this PC, to charge it while playing music. Okay, that's what will happen. But if you wish to preserve the battery power of your phone, then obviously the choice is using phone mode. So in this connection, it will operate, okay, in phone mode, but it will not draw power from the host to charge the battery, okay? And I have tested both options. I would just simply say like this: it is always better to use PC mode, even if you're connecting to your phone. Why? Because running on this 4,000 mAh of battery of this Android Xiaomi Mi 90, I observed that the battery would last longer on both of this dongle, this BTR15 and also the phone. Whereas if I run it separately, okay, for example, not allowing this phone to charge this BTR15, then this BTR15 would only operate at around 4 hours before the battery dies off on this BTR15. If I run it in PC mode while attaching to my phone, I was able to get at around 8 hours, which is impressive, I would say, and pretty much something that I would expect from a typical dongle. So 8 hours from this BTR15 while running in PC mode. Similarly, can be said also of this Qudelix 5K. Okay, and nothing much to show here, basically, because the real deal with this 5K is on the software itself, which I will show to you shortly. So, just a quick one. The 2.5 mm balance here, 3.5 mm single-ended, and these two simple button on the side here, which is on this side, on, off, and options, and this volume up, volume down, and also both of them support play, pause, forward, and reverse function, both of them using this button here. You just need to read the manual on how to operate it. It's pretty much very straightforward. Depending on which version of Android you have, okay, one of the reasons that you want to have these two is that because both of them are LDAC capable. And why LDAC is such a big deal? LDAC is the highest resolution Bluetooth codec available nowadays, okay, which runs at 990 kbps, which is essentially close to CD lossless kind of quality. So it is obviously, right, it will be a waste not to use LDAC. And for both of them, I always set this feature, which is sound quality preferred. Okay, but the issue with that is that, let me just clarify. LDAC in sound quality preferred can be a bit finicky, meaning that, you know, if you are to use these two paired in LDAC mode, and then you move around, for example, leaving this on the desk, and I move my phone over there to the chair, I can easily lose the connection, or it gets distorted really bad. Okay, and it happened to both of them. But I will admit one thing. When it comes to LDAC, this Qudelix 5K seems to be a bit more stable, which I will explain a bit more later. Okay, now let's just proceed with this. So, in order to fully utilize this Q15, or should I say BTR15, sorry, okay. So, you install this FiiO app, and then you should already be able to see this FiiO BTR15 connected here, once paired, okay, and you can click on it. And then this is where you see the feature. And this is one of the first critique which I have here. You see that just now it was loading. Every time I does that, all right, there's a delay, at least around 3 seconds before it loads up this screen. And we have 4 screens here. Again, loading up again. Okay, not so robust. So, loading again. Okay, let's just go to the first one. Okay, I would just simply say that despite having this app, it is pretty much very straightforward, non-confusing sort of option being offered here. For example, like, you know, you can even set idle power off, okay, and the operation mode, how you want to set the buttons, okay. And I think perhaps one of the most interesting thing to many people is that this second screen here, which is the EQ. So just to clarify, from what I can understand is that this BTR15 offers 8 band EQ, parametric EQ. You can adjust the EQ itself, okay. And of course, on the audio side here, okay, you can have control over, let's say, volume and stuff like that, channel balance, distortion, compensation, you know, click it on so that it can actually manage some sort of distortion. And then of course, some more compensation pertaining to Bluetooth operation, okay. And so I have this Qudelix 5K connected to my phone now, okay, pad. And you can download this Qudelix app from this Play Store and just open it up. And you notice that it immediately open without any kind of delay and immediately detects this 5K. And let me just tell you this. The first time when I open it, compared against this FiiO app, I was like, wow. There's tons and tons and tons of things that you can do with this Qudelix 5K. So just make it simple. If you love feature, you love to tweak, you love this sort of gadgetry, control and everything, despite not having any kind of, you know, advanced control on the, you know, the unit itself, everything is done here. Okay, so let's just quickly have a look here. You can have a look at the device, pretty much where you can control everything, literally everything, you know, firmware updates, everything, anything, all right? And then the battery, it can clearly show you the kind of usage and everything that happens within this 5K, okay? You can even control how you want it to behave when connected to USB, okay? Power, of course, again, related to that battery as well. Miscellaneous, okay? Button, how you want to control the button. A lot, okay? I'm just gonna put it this way, okay? If I were to spend my time in this video talking about the feature, this video would stretch you 2 hours, okay? We don't want to do that. But let me just quickly go to the one which is important. And I know this is important to many people, right? Remember just now I showed you the equalizer for BTR15? Okay, this thing is the god of equalizer or DSP, okay? 20 parametric equalizer, 20 band. That is how much. You can literally spend like, you know, half a day just playing with this, just to get the right kind of tuning that you want, okay? If you are into EQ, okay? And of course, you can control the power here and everything, how you want it to run, you know, balance, normal. And another one, which is very important as well, filter, okay? If I were to check back on this BTR15, BTR15 only offer two filter, which is the fast and hybrid. So which means that you can either select, if you prefer something which is not as fast, you're just gonna have to select hybrid on this BTR15, which means that it is more suitable for something which is brighter sounding partner, like for example, some Atmospheric ER, 2XR, or even, Kinera Idun Golden Neutral. But on this Qudelix 5K, so many to choose from. But as a rule of thumb, all right, for my testing purposes, I always prefer NOS, no oversampling, which means that I would just simply tell this 5K to present the sound how it is, as how it was meant to be. No adjustment to the tempo, to the fret, the rhythm, because how filter effect normally is on the decay side of it, the flow of the decay or even the attack, whether you want it to be like prompt or slightly delayed, which means that if it is delayed, it tends to be a bit smoother. Before I talk about sound and performance, let me just clarify on one very important thing. You see, these two decks here, just like many other deck, you cannot judge them on their own, okay? Because there's no way for them to make sound unless you attach something to them, right? The listening partner. Okay, so for this very purpose, I have spent quite a lot of time testing these two decks with this Kinera Idun Golden. And you might ask why I choose this Kinera Idun Golden. Because throughout the years since 2020, I have yet to find anything as transparent, uncolored, and flat out neutral like this Kinera Idun Golden, especially coming from the Chi-Fi section. The only one which offer me as flat but slightly boosted in the lows would be this Atmospheric ER2XR or even Atmospheric ER4S. But I choose not to use Atmospheric ER4S because that one is just kind of a bit metallic sounding, or people would just simply say that BA sort of timbre. But this is truthfully neutral. I have also used it quite a lot with this new favorite of mine, which is Sivga Nightingale Magnetic Planar. And obviously this single DD of Final Audio A5000. And this another favorite of mine, which is HIDIS MP145. Okay, both on 2.5 mm balance and also on 4.4 mm balance and also single-ended. Okay, so let's just proceed with the sound itself. In order to do that, I have been thinking that the best way to describe the sort of sound which I'm hearing from either one of them is just to walk you through my playlist. Okay. On repeat, I have been playing both of them, subjected both of them, running on LDAC maximum because these two are essentially mainly Bluetooth DAC. Okay, I do use them in USB connection mode, but I always try to use LDAC maximum on my phone here, which is Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV, running on Tidal. And this is the playlist which I have used on both of them very, very extensively, repeatedly, in fact. Okay, you can actually have a look at this playlist which I am sharing in the description below on Tidal. Okay, let's talk about the first one of my long-time favorite, Vivaldi. Okay, and why is this Vivaldi special to me? Okay, let's just have a look at it. Okay, this Vivaldi is one of the most complex classical composition, right, of instrument. It contains 12 violins, 4 violas, 3 cellos, double bass, and harpsichord. And this is for Allegro Concerto number 1 edition. It could be more, it could be less, but this is the one which is known the most. Okay, so when I attach this BTR15 to this Kinera Idun Golden, what I'm hearing is a super transparent and realistic sound. Okay, I just love the resolution, the way it handles the attack, the decay, and the separation, the layering of each separate violins, okay, separate violas. I was able to tell the difference between the layering of violin and viola. But the good thing is that while doing it, it is definitely analytical, but it flows musically as well. So there's no element of something which I would consider as overly picky or even sibilant, even when the crescendo of the violins pick up, okay? and or even when the harpsichord was like, being pressed, very aggressively. But in general, this Vivaldi is quite complex. And when I switch over to this Qudelix 5K, one of the first differences that I notice is that the imaging is slightly stronger on this one, because I must say that perhaps the focus of this Qudelix 5K is resolution of being analytical and strong with macro and micro detail. Okay, it does not mean that this BTR15 is less analytical, less detailed. It just simply means that this thing is overemphasized with that. So depending on what type of partner that you attach, especially when you use something which is like this highly resolving Kinera Idun Golden, what I'm saying is that if you love strong presentation of macro detail, Qudelix 5K has it, okay? But there's a caveat to it, okay? While doing all that sound presentation, I must admit that I like BTR15 presentation better. You want to know why? Because it sounded more natural, airy, and the soundstage itself felt wide and open on top of being holographic. Whereas this Qudelix 5K, despite offering highly analytical imaging and resolution, layering, it does sound a bit cramped. The soundstage itself kind of a bit narrow and tall. And this is not a surprise because this is the sort of sound which I would regard as simply being ESS Sabre type of typical sound. Both of them ESS Sabre, but surprisingly, this BTR15, to me personally, what my ears is telling me, does not sound like a typical ESS Sabre. It is sounding a lot more natural than this BTR15. And here, Diana Krall, I Remember You. I would probably say that I have listened to this song like millions of times. You can check my Tidal or even Deezer or any playlist. This is the most played song because this song is very complex. It is also very well versed, very well mastered with the sort of macro and micro detail and small nuances. Okay, it also offers wide range of dynamic, anything from high, mid-range to low frequency. All sort of detail are contained within this one particular song, I Remember You. And when I attach it to this BTR15, the first thing which I observe is that, especially when attached to, again, this highly neutral, uncolored and transparent Kinera Idun Golden, is that the sort of sound which I consider as being truthfully neutral, uncolored and natural, organic sounding. Okay, so I do not hear any kind of attempt to do any sort of coloration, be it on the lower frequency, the mid-range, the vocal itself. Her contralto vocal sounded correct to my ears. There's no hint of warming, there's no hint of drying or anything like that. The pace is sounded right, the attack of the instrument sounded right, and the decay itself sounded smooth and right. It is as analytical as it is musical. Whereas when I switch to this Qudelix 5K, all right, what I'm hearing is an enhanced version of that sound. Okay, it does sound a bit more energetic, punchy, vibrant and engaging, but I do also sense that I regard that as being colored. Okay, so especially with the lower frequency, the bass, okay, and the mid-range itself, the lower mid-range, I can sense that, the trailing end of her contralto vocal sounded a bit thick than what I perceive as being neutral. So between these two, again, I would just simply say that it sounded a bit richer, but colored when attached to Qudelix 5K. And this is definitely more neutral, uncolored, and transparent. Alison Krauss and the Union Station. Goodbye is all we have. This is, without a doubt, the second most played song in my playlist after Diana Krall. Okay, and one of the reasons I use it and I love it to test audio equipment because this particular song exhibit great amount of high frequency or pitchy sort of sound presentation. Number one, Alison Krauss is soprano. Her angelic voice is just simply piercing, very sharp and very sweet at the same time. And secondly, there's a lot of string instrument being used by the Union Station, like banjo, guitars, and steel guitars. Okay, so when I listen to this particular song with this combination again, all right, BTR15, the sort of sound which I'm hearing is first, the attack itself. It is mature. Okay, the attack of the guitar, the banjo, and the starting end of the vocal itself, it is just so very solid yet natural and realistic. It is not overly emphasized. And when I use this Qudelix 5K, I would just simply admit, right, sometime when the crescendo of the banjo itself, when they like twing like that, or even let's say when Alison Krauss started to do kind of thing, then it can get very picky. And this is where the first instance of something which I'm gonna mention here, which I have observed from this Qudelix 5K, pinna glare. All right, and this is so notoriously attached to most ESS Sabre presentation. Pinna glare simply means that, you know, anywhere between the range of upper mid-range all the way to treble, it would exhibit the sort of glare or even energy, emphasis, which can be quite piercing if you attach this 5K with this highly neutral and transparent sounding IM here, like this Kinera Idun Golden, or even this Ethymotic ER2XR, or even this Final Audio A5000, okay? But less piercing, less sibilant when attached to this Sivga Nightingale, which is super smooth among all of the IM that I have. Okay, and this is quite apparent despite when I actually selected the filter on this Qudelix 5K to the super slow roll off, it is still piercing enough as compared to this BTR15. So I must say that when it comes to the handling of that sort of sound presentation, BTR15 sounded a lot smoother to my ears. It does not exhibit any kind of that typical ESS Sabre pinna glare. When testing audio gears, I don't just simply limit my testing to high fidelity or hi-fi sort of, you know, sound. I also try them on low fidelity or lo-fi sort of music so that I'll be able to understand how versatile they are when subjected to listening to something which is harsh. And for this example, right, I'm just gonna show you here Majestic Mass, which is one of my favorite band. It is essentially a black metal or heavy metal with black metal accent to it. One of the harshest song that I have in my collection. This particular song would require a bit of agility and versatility on the listening partner. Okay, let me just put it this way. Okay, this particular song contains so many cymbal and hi-hat attack, percussion attack. Okay, layer, open layer, and it is complex, in fact, despite being lo-fi. So the moment you listen to it, you're just gonna hear like all over the place, and including that, you know, snare drum, and not to mention that very harsh sounding male vocal. Okay, so the best way to put it is that when I use this BTR15 on that particular song, I am not hearing any kind of something which I would consider as being offensive or sibilant at all. Okay, BTR15 was able to handle even the harshest peak of that particular song. All right, it maintained, you know, the layering, the separation, and the flow of the music itself. It does not sound congested at all. And I must say that Qudelix 5K pretty much performs similarly, except that this Qudelix 5K, because of that, you know, emphasis on the resolution and the imaging of the upper frequency, right? Like I mentioned before with the song of Alison Krauss, it is just outright sibilant on some of the IEM. Especially, I just can't listen to this song in combination with this Kinera Idun Golden and together with this, you know, 5K. The most prominent thing which actually I would just bring up is that the way the cymbal splashes sounded like. It is just simply metallic and unrealistic, lacking air. Okay, it does not sound natural at all. It is sounding digital, like, you know, when listening to old MP3 at 64 kbps, that sort of decay. I might kind of a bit extreme here, but that is the best way I can describe it. I am not getting that kind of decay performance coming from this BTR15. And the next one, another of my favorite, Russian Circle, Harper Lewis. And this is where I test best performance of these two, right? And this is, I would just simply say that BTR 15 versus this 5K, I prefer a bit more of the lower frequency presentation from this Qudelix 5K because of the enrichment of the lower frequency of how it presents the mid bass and the sub bass. It is definitely a lot punchier and more engaging when listened through using this Qudelix 5K as compared to more neutral presentation of this BTR15. The keyword here is that if you prefer a presentation which is a bit more transparent and neutral without any hint of coloration or enhancement to the lower frequency itself, okay, this BTR15 has it. But if you like a bit more of engagement, vibrancy, or even let's say punchy sort of lower frequency presentation, Qudelix 5K has it even without using any EQ, okay? For your information, I have been using both of them without any kind of EQ, all flat, okay? Last but not least, Morrissey with Back to Camden, one of my long-time favorite song. One of the reason I choose this particular song because it gives me a good example of deep, chesty male vocal, baritone type. So let me just put it this way, okay? When I use this BTR15, pretty much similar to Diana Krall, which is also having this low, chesty sort of vocal, Morrissey vocal sounded natural, realistic, and transparent, okay? I am not hearing any kind of coloration as well, especially with the way, even when he actually pitched his vocal to the highest crescendo. When I use this Qudelix 5K, in contrast compared between these two, I would just simply say that this 5K, as noted earlier, sounds a bit more enriched. So what I'm trying to say is that if you prefer the sort of mid-range or even lower mid-range performance, Qudelix 5K has it, but it is also a bit more colored, whereas this is definitely more transparent. Let's talk about driving power and synergy. And for this BTR15, I have tested it with this magnetic planar of mine, which is Fostech T40 RP-MK3, one of the hardest to drive magnetic planar you can find in the market right now at 91 dB of sensitivity. This 4.4 mm balance of BTR15, which offer 340 milliwatt of power at 32 ohm, running for VRMS, was able to drive this Fostech T40 RP-MK3 without any issue. I would even say that it is effortless, okay? I needed only volume at 32 on this independent volume adjustment out of 100, and I was already getting the sort of sound which I would consider as being full, engaging with lots of headroom, and the authority of the dynamic itself, you know, the presentation of the flow of the sound itself sounded proper to my ear. I am not hearing as if like I am missing anything, okay? However, I wasn't able to test properly on this Qudelix 5K, just to be fair, because you would notice that my Fostech here only runs on 4.4 mm balance, and this Qudelix 5K only offer 2.5 mm balance. So there's no way for me to test it. But I am pretty sure that with the kind of power rating, all right, despite lower at the milliwatt, 100 milliwatt lower than this BTR15, I can safely say that it would probably run properly as well on this particular Qudelix 5K. Without a doubt, being the most transparent and neutral sounding out of the two, all right, this BTR15 was able to synergize with practically anything. Okay, I have already mentioned to you again this Kinera Idun Golden here. Okay, Sivga Nightingale, Final Audio A5000, Etimotic ER2 XR, and this HIDIS MP145. Being neutral and transparent means that I was able to hear the sort of sound signature I expect from each of the IEM. But when it comes to Qudelix 5K, it is not so flexible. Why? Because out of the IEM that I mentioned to you earlier, I feel that it does not sound or synergize very well with this Kinera Idun Golden or even Etimotic ER2 XR. It does synergize really well, especially with this Sivga Nightingale, because the energetic and punchy and colored nature of this Qudelix 5K synergize or complement really well with the soft, warm, and smooth nature of this Sivga Nightingale. And it also sounded great with this HIDIS MP145, which is fairly very well balanced with the sound itself. kind of a bit, energetic and vibrant when attached to Final Audio 5000. So it depends. For the sake of comparison, what you are seeing on screen right now is something which I call as timbre and signature or sound signature chart. This is borrowed from my dongle madness dongle competition, okay? So that we get an idea where does this BTR15 and Qudelix 5K stand when compared against the rest of the popular dongles in the market. Not all of them, that's how much I can fit into the screen. So let me just put it this way. Qudelix 5K, with the sort of sound signature it offered, it is definitely edging closer towards being digital hi-fi sort of sound presentation, which is pretty much on par to FiiO KA5, iBasso DC06 Pro, which I reviewed recently, and also this iBasso DC03 Pro, okay? That modern, hi-fi, energetic, vibrant sort of sound. Whereas this BTR15 is in fact pretty much identical and remind me a lot to this iBasso DC04 Pro. So I would even say that if you ever wonder that you like this DC04 Pro sound and you wish that this thing have Bluetooth, this is it, BTR15. Ultimately, everything considered between these two, let me just clarify this upfront, okay? Both are amazing in their own way. Both are probably the best in the market right now when it comes to portable, Bluetooth-enabled DAC amp dongle. Okay, you are looking at the best here, the two of them, okay? But which one to choose from will be entirely dependent on your needs, on what you prefer, not what I prefer, okay? I can just simply explain or describe what I'm hearing and my own experience. But without a doubt, I can just simply tell you now, I prefer FiiO BTR15 a lot more over Qudelix 5K. And I will just explain to you why. First, this BTR15 offers the sort of sound which I consider as being natural, neutral, organic, transparent, and in fact, analog sounding. Okay, the sort of sound which I really love. And while at it, it is amply analytical and musical at the same time. This Qudelix 5K, on the other hand, the biggest appeal of it is that it offers one of the best sounding ESS subrate sort of tuning. So if you are already an existing fan of analytical, clean, clinical sound of ESS subrate, then Qudelix 5K definitely wins over BTR15. So it all depends on your preference, okay? But one of the biggest caveat for me perhaps this here. 2.5 mm balance as opposed to 4.4 mm balance on this BTR15. Also considering the fact that, let's just put it this way, when it comes to feature, Qudelix 5K is a clear winner over anything else in the market right now. It has the sort of option, features, which is probably even competing with, high-end DAP. That's how good it is. And in contrast, this BTR15, pretty rudimentary in comparison. Simple, way too simple when compared to Qudelix 5K. But then again, it depends also on what you need. For people who prefer simplicity over complexity, and if you don't even bother of using EQ like me, I don't use EQ, BTR15 is a clear answer for my need. But if you like to tweak, like to actually enhance the sound, play around with filter, DSP and everything, Qudelix 5K is the one to go for.